Chang'an Palace, February 705. The whispers beyond the chamber doors are getting louder. Wu Zetian, 80 years old, feverish, China's only female emperor, can hear generals and ministers gathering in the darkness. The Zhang brothers, her young companions, pace outside her room, finally understanding what she's known for weeks. The coup is coming tonight. She's held absolute power for 50 years, longer than almost any Tang emperor, and now the men she elevated are about to erase everything she built, as if a woman ruling China was always impossible. This is Leadership in History, where we analyze how women exercise power in complex political systems. Today, we're examining Wu Zetian, not to decide if she was good or evil, but to understand how she did what everyone said couldn't be done, and why, 13 centuries later, we still can't agree on what her 50-year reign actually means. 637 CE, Wu Zhao is 13 when she enters Emperor Taizong's palace as a 5th-grade concubine. 5th grade means she has status. Barely. The imperial harem isn't just a collection of women. It's a parallel bureaucracy with 9 ranks, competing factions, and one brutal rule. Irrelevance is death. Most concubines compete for the emperor's bed. Wu competes for information. She watches who whispers to eunuchs, who controls access to the emperor's chambers, who gets promoted and why. She's mapping the invisible architecture of power. Then she makes a decision that should get her killed. She begins a relationship with Crown Prince Gaozong, the emperor's son. It's forbidden, treasonous. But Wu has calculated something. Emperor Taizong is aging. When he dies, every childless concubine gets sent to a Buddhist convent. Her only path forward runs through the next emperor. 649 CE, Taizong dies. Wu is sent to Ganya Temple. They shave her head, dress her in rough robes. She's 25 years old, and according to every rule of Tang Dynasty succession, her story ends here. Except Emperor Gaozong remembers her. 2 years later, she's recalled to the palace, not as his father's leftover, but as his chosen concubine. Wu has converted a forbidden romance into political resurrection. She's back, but she's surrounded by enemies. Empress Wang controls the inner palace. Wu has no formal power, no institutional authority, no protection except Gaozong's affection, which in palace politics is the most unreliable currency there is. 654 CE, Wu gives birth to a daughter. Empress Wang visits the infant, cooing over the tiny child. She leaves. The baby is found dead shortly after, strangled according to later sources. Wu collapses in anguished accusation. Empress Wang murdered her child. Here's what we know for certain. Gaozong believed Wu. Wang was deposed. Wu became empress. Here's what we cannot know, what actually happened in that room. But let's analyze Wu's decision-making regardless of the truth. Whether she exploited a tragedy or engineered one, she understood the mechanics of institutional crisis. Gaozong needed justification to remove an empress, an act without precedent. A dead child provided unquestionable emotional leverage, and crucially, a private crime requires no public evidence, only imperial belief. 655 CE, Wu is empress. Her first decision reveals how she understands power consolidation. Empress Wang and consort Xiao aren't quietly exiled. They're beaten 100 times with rods. Their hands and feet are amputated. Then they're thrown into massive wine vats to drown in their own blood. The palace records claim Wu said, "Now these witches can get drunk to their bones." This isn't sadism, it's strategic terror. Wu is signaling that opposition won't be contained, it will be annihilated. Everyone in the palace learns the new rules in one brutal lesson. 660 CE. Emperor Gaozong suffers a debilitating stroke. He can barely speak, can't govern. Wu faces the central crisis of consort power. How to transition from influence to authority without triggering institutional rebellion. Her solution is gradual institutional capture. She doesn't seize power in one dramatic moment. She assumes administrative functions piece by piece. signing documents, appointing officials, conducting policy review, while maintaining the fiction that she's merely assisting her husband. By the time the court realizes what's happened, Wu has embedded herself so deeply into governance that removing her would collapse the entire system. Later reputation, baby killer, monster, lustful deviant, these accusations come primarily from Confucian scholars writing after her death, men ideologically committed to proving that female sovereignty leads to chaos. Here's the leadership question we're left with. Was Wu's violence exceptional for her context, or standard imperial practice that becomes monstrous only when a woman executes it? Every Tang emperor eliminated political threats, most used torture to extract confessions, all maintained power through strategic brutality. But when Wu does identical things, the accounts become lurid, sexualized, grotesque. The blank stele might be the most honest monument in Chinese history, because 13 centuries later, we still cannot agree what Wu's reign means. 3 lessons on exercising authority in systems designed to exclude you. First, informal power requires institutional translation. Wu spent decades converting personal influence into structural authority through appointments, policy implementation, and administrative control. But she never fully institutionalized female succession. When her personal power failed, the system reverted. Modern application, individual competence doesn't create systemic change without structural reform. Second, building new coalitions matters more than converting old enemies. Wu didn't try to convince aristocrats she deserved power. She built a meritocratic system that elevated people who had no reason to support the old order. Modern application. Sometimes authority requires creating new power bases rather than winning over existing ones. Third, reputation is written by those who survive you. Wu couldn't control the scholars who documented her reign because those scholars were ideologically opposed to her existence. The wordless stele might represent her recognition that no inscription would be fair. Modern application, legacy, is a political battlefield where women rarely control the narrative. Wu Zetian ruled for 50 years. That's not propaganda, that's documented governance. Everything else is interpretation shaped by who's telling the story. The blank stone stands, the questions remain, and perhaps that's the point. Some leaders are too complex, too contradictory for history to judge fairly, especially when they're women who refuse to stay within the boundaries designed to contain them. And if you want more stories about history's most misunderstood figures, subscribe and hit the bell. I'll see you in the next one.